Right, so carrying on from the previous video, we are in the process of checking out now whether or not we like Python. So let's put in, we know how to check for empty strings, so let's put in yes for here, just so that we don't cause any errors, and we'll press the enter key and let's follow through how it works. So it's now coming to the point where the user input, as you can see, is yes. The data type now is bool, because we're asking for a Boolean input. So if we press F11, it's going to skip that because we know it's not a string. It's going to check whether the input length is 0, which it's not. Then it says, is the data type bool, which it is. So what we're going to look for now is to find the substring of the first character in lower. So my user input is yes with lowercase y already. So the substring of the first character, one character length in lowercase, does it equal to y? And if it does, the user input is true and the validity is true. And if it's an n, or a word that starts with n, that will be set to false and valid. Now you'll notice that the user input has been changed to true in a text format. So remember, user input is a string. In Python and Lua, we actually changed the data type of user input to Boolean or number, depending on what we were looking for, but we can't do that with C#, so I've changed it into a value that can be converted. So the user input is going to be set to true if we typed in anything beginning with y. So let's press F11. So sure enough, user input is set to true, valid is true, because we've got a readable answer. So the loop will finish and it will return the user input. There we are. So user input is now true in inverted commas. So we've got the string version. And as before, we're now going to use the convert to Boolean true, which will return a true data type. So let's press F11. There we go. So the variable likes Python has now been set to true, and not true in inverted commas, but the data type true. And then again, we're going to print that out. User likes Python. Let's press F11. Print it out. Oh, let's run that through. This is so annoying. That's it. And F11 again. Let's check the output there. So user likes Python true. Now the next line here is to sleep for 2 seconds, which is about to do, and then clear the keyboard. So let's let them do those two things there. So we'll F11 and then we sleep. Oh, you'll notice that what I've done with this one, let's just switch back, is I've used keyboard.sleep2. That's to try and mimic Python and Lua's way of doing things in whole seconds rather than thread.sleep 2000. I've asked it to keyboard sleep 2, and just to make sure we haven't done anything silly, if we've set up the delay as less than 100, so in other words, we didn't accidentally put 2000 milliseconds in as our delay, we put 2, then it's going to multiply it by 1000. So if I press F11, so the delay has now been multiplied to 2000, which of course is what thread sleep uses, milliseconds. So that will now run, and it's done. So we do that, and now we're going to clear the keyboard. So this is the whole console. It's got all these lines on. So we're just going to call call keyboard clear. Now, of course, we can call console.clear, but the reason for doing it with this one, if I just press F11, is that it clears the console using that exact command, but it has a return value of 0. So we know that we are currently on row 0. So this automatically sets the row back to 0 by calling keyboard clear rather than just console.clear. So let me show you the console. That's empty. Now we're going to do this menu. So we need two things. We need a title, which I've set to what do you think of this utility, and then we need some options. So at the moment I've set just 4 options. So it's a normal list of strings: brilliant, not bad, could do better, rubbish. So we've set those 2 up. So if I hover over title, you can see what do you think of this utility, and if I hover over options, you'll see there's a count of 4, and those are the 4 options that have been set: brilliant, not bad, could do better, and rubbish. So we're now going to call the keyboard.menu, passing in the title, options, and of course the row number. So let's press F11. So this is the keyboard class again. Oh, sorry, I meant to tell you right at the start, this of course is a static class, because we're not everything inside it is static, because we're not we don't need to make instances of this class, we're just using it. So that's what we're doing there. So let's go back to where we were. I've lost myself now. This is the menu, wasn't it? Yep, let's go back to, are we on here? Let's press F11. Right, okay, so we're calling the menu with the title, what do you think of this utility, the string list here. Now, to get a nice neat output, we want to know whether the length of the title is an even number or not. So the title length, what we're asking here is if we divide the length of the title by 2, do we get an odd a 1 remainder by using the I can never remember the name of this, modulo. Yeah, so if we've got 1, then we've got we know we need to add an extra space because we've got an odd number of characters. As it happens, our title length is 30, so we don't need to add an extra space, so we can hit that. Rows we can ignore for the time being. Now the next thing we want to do is to find out how many horizontal rows our entire structure, that is the title and the menu items, is going to occupy. So we can do that by counting out how many text lines there are in there, which is 4, add an additional 4 to compensate for the lines that we're going to be drawing. So it just gives us like how many rows we're going to be needing to draw everything out. So that will now tell us that our total number of rows is 8. So we need to use 8 rows to draw our grid with. So we've set the maximum length, or this variable called max length, to the length of the title, which of course is 30 characters. Yep. And then just to check, we might have had a very full list of choices that had long text in them. So we're going to loop through all of the text lines, all 4 of them, brilliant, not bad, and check their lengths. And if any of them are longer than the title, we're going to change max length from its current value of whatever it was. Let's just press F11. From its current value of 30 to compensate for any long lines inside our list here. So that will go through those. Obviously that's not going to find anything longer because they're all short. Then once we've got a maximum length, we're going to add 28 to it to give us some padding. So you'll see what this does in just a moment. One final check is the maximum length at the moment is 58. Is it greater than the width of the console minus 2? Because we don't want it to spread out and drop down to the next line. So it just kind of keeps that in check. Obviously it doesn't apply. Again, we're checking the max length to make sure that it's an even number. Next thing to do is to produce some spaces. So we want to create this variable called filler, which will be a number of spaces packed together. So this is done with this new string using a character space, hence the single quotes. So Python users, remember in C#, anything is a single quote round it is a character only, not a string. This will not compile if you use the single quotes round anything longer than one character. And then we're looking for the maximum length that we worked out here, which was 58. Yep, minus the length of the title, which is what do you think of this utility, divide it by 2, and that will give me the number of spaces that we need to use to pack either side. So if I press F11, the filler is now, as you can see in the view there, it's probably about 7 or 8 spaces, so that's our filler. Now we're using some UTF-8 characters, which I have actually, these are the ones here that make up the board. For ease of use, I've actually put them inside the class, or at least I thought I had, maybe I haven't. No. Okay. Oh, that was the Lua and Python versions I'm thinking of, yeah. But they're easy enough to pick up, and they're on the my GitHub resource for this anyway. So we're using these UTF-8 characters to build up the top bar of our menu. So you can see if I hover the I spotted it a moment ago. Anyway, let's print that one out. Let's show you what that looks like. There we go. So we've drawn the top bar of our menu there. And then we're going to do something similar with the single bar, the filler, which is our spaces, the title, and the filler, which will draw the middle bit with the title in. So what I'm going to do is just to speed things up, is just to hit the continue bar there. And then we've got, what do you think of this utility with its spacing here and here, with that centered? Now obviously we need to draw the bar that runs underneath, so that's a similar process, except we're using these UTF-8 characters here and here. So we'll take that one off, hit the continue button. And then we've got the sort of underlying bar here. Now we're ready to start filling in the elements of the actual menu. So the way this one works is that we're not using a for each, we're using a simple counting for loop, where we started off an integer I as 0, and we're going up to the making sure it's less than the count of the text lines, which is 4. So this will run from 0, 1, 2, and 3 through the loops. And each time it runs through, if the value of I is less than 9, it will print, I think it's 5 spaces here. Then whatever the index currently is, plus 1, because obviously we want our menu to be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4 rather than 0, 1, 2, 3. So we're adding 1 to the index there. Then we're taking whatever the particular piece of text is, which is being padded to the right by the maximum length of the menu, -8 characters. So that will then print that out. I've just spotted down here that might need to be changed if we had if we've got 10 or more entries to our menu, that might need to be changed there. But anyway, that's irrelevant. So for the time being, let's press F11. So I is obviously 1, so we're going to print out that. As we know, this print statement, if I step through it, takes forever. So I'm going to just hit the green continue button, so it'll print that line out and then return back to here. Oh, foolish! Yes, I forgot. Anyway, it's printed out the whole thing. So we've done all of the lines here for the for each of the menu items, and then finally it's printed the bottom one here, which is this one here. Sorry, this one here. This is just the line 131, and then it's using the get integer to get this bit here, and then from there on we know how it all works, because if we hit enter, oh, I have to just unhook that, continue. Oops, there we go. So let's just do that again. So if I just hit enter, pressing the spacebar doesn't work. Then if we choose the wrong number, it's going to refuse it. If we try 10, it's going to refuse it. This is the stuff we've already been using, so we're just calling the internal function there. And finally, once we've chosen a number that works, then it does its stuff, prints it out, and presses enter to quit. So I hope you'll find this useful. So there are a lot more things you can do with the console, particularly in C#. We can use colors and all sorts of things, but that's beyond the scope of this particular tutorial. So this was just to allow you to have a static class called kboard, which it describes up here how to use it, that you can use in your own projects to simply get input from the user and make sure that the response you get back is guaranteed to be correct. The whole thing is no, so I put it on my, anyway, I'll put the link to my GitHub page in the description below, and I've got the code there for both C#, Python and Lua, so you can run consoles in any of those languages.